It's time to talk some Detroit Lions football on the Our Football Network, Our Football YouTube channel. And that means Jeff Risdon's back from the Detroit Lions YouTube channel. Jeff, how's it going?
It's good to be with you. We got some fun things to talk about with the Detroit Lions right now, and we don't normally get that, so it's a good time to be here.
It is something else how quickly it's changed, isn't it? It's
just really is
amazing. Because I know we've only talked about, I don't know, like maybe even though we've talked quite a bit, but let's say we've talked 10 times or 15 times in the past 5 years. It's just amazing out of all those interviews. Matter of fact, they're still probably logged in somewhere. Might even be all on the YouTube channel somewhere in the library. You can go back and just see from the very first one till now, all of the different things that we talked about from starting off as that's why I keep referencing as Jet fans to the Jet fans. Just look at what's going on in Detroit. If you can get your front office right the way they did it, it'll trickle down to the rest of the organization and you can change your culture. It can happen. And that's exactly what happened in Detroit.
Yeah, and it had been a very long time coming, and there were a lot of people that were still skeptical when Dan Campbell was, I think he started out, I think he was 3-20-1 or something like that. And to owner Sheila Hamp's credit, she stuck with the plan, and since then they have been the second best team in football. Only Kansas City has more wins. So
there you go. And the Lions are playing games right now. Speaking of Kansas City, I even referenced this the other day. When you watch Detroit play now, it's similar to when you watch the Chiefs play because you just know they're going to win. You know, it's like they'll figure it out. It may not be pretty. They may have some injuries and they may have some bad play, but in the end, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, we're still trying to get used to the inevitability of winning, but it's something that I definitely want to get used to.
Absolutely, because Chief fans have sure gotten used to it. And,
yes, they have.
Good for them, but Detroit still has to get to a couple more steps, getting to a Super Bowl
definitely. And
then winning one. So let's talk about, I think the biggest, if I did ask anyone to ask me anything to ask you, I would think it'd be about injuries. I would think it'd be about, are the Lions, because Hutchinson obviously is not coming back unless somehow he is back for the Super Bowl, which I guess is still a possibility.
Yeah, it is. Okay. I think the easiest way to say it was there was a picture taken during last Thursday night's game when they beat the Packers of their top 5 pass rushers or five starters from the defense that were all watching the game together at Alex Anzalone's house. It was Hutchinson, Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Marcus Davenport, and Kyle Pecco, who had worked his way up throughout the offseason and was going to be a valuable piece of the defense. They've all been hurt. All are still hurt. We're not getting Pecco back. We're not getting Barnes back. But, Anzalone will be back by Christmas, hopefully. Hutchinson could – it's been floated that Hutchinson could possibly play in the NFC Championship game if the Lions get there. I'm a little skeptical on that, but I wouldn't put it past him. Okay. But the Super Bowl's a little bit more realistic for the broken bone in his leg. So, that's – and Davenport's obviously out for the year, as is his custom. So, they've plugged and played and done a lot with a lot of reserves, plucking people off the street. Their highest graded defensive player by Pro Football Focus in the win over the Packers was Ezekiel Turner. He wasn't on the team 3 weeks ago. Like that, they are finding guys who fit their system and fit their culture. And I give Brad Holmes, the general manager, a ton of credit. I give Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn a ton of credit for integrating these guys in. Look, there were plays this past week where Quan Alexander was out there and he had no clue who he was supposed to be covering. And it didn't kill them. And I think, the longer he plays, the more he gets involved in the system. Sure. If he can stay healthy, the arrow's really pointing up, because when some of these guys do come back, they're going to get John Kaminsky back, perhaps before the playoffs, but probably for the start of the playoffs.
Okay.
So you're looking at guys that are going to be able to come back. Josh Pascal should be back soon. DJ Reader should be ready this week, though we're still waiting on some of the practice things. As Dan Campbell said in his Monday press conference, Thursday of this week is going to be very big on that. Whether you're going to get Reeder, Pascal, doesn't sound like Levi Onwuzurike will be back anytime soon. Ifeatu Melifonwu remains on injured reserve. They could get Jalen Reeves-Maybin back this week. It's like I'm reading off like more than half of the defensive roster here, especially in the front part. And all these guys are hurt and in various states of coming back. And they're still 12-1 and still have a top 5 defense. That's it blows my mind.
It just shows you though, because if these players were picked off the street and joined a 3-win team, you wouldn't notice anything different about the 3-win team. And maybe the player would nobody would notice him either. But it just goes to show when you do integrate new players, as long as there is a good foundation there, it can be okay. You can figure it out because you have so many good players and key guys that are still healthy that can pick up the rest of those players. And also those guys wind up coming into the organizations. It's just an aura of just confidence. It's a big difference.
Oh yeah. I think Zadarius Smith is the best example. In 4 games in Detroit, he's done more pressures, sacks, QB hits, and tackles for losses in 4 games than he got in the entire season before that in Cleveland. It's just, a different, the expectation is higher. He wound up being a perfect schematic fit. He's the ideal Marcus Davenport replacement. And
wow. Yes.
He's been just phenomenal in that role, rushing off the right side of the defense and getting guys like that. Look, that they had to make a little bit of a trade for him.
Sure.
But finding the guys who can fit in and do that, you're looking at to your point, though, they do have enough key players that are still healthy. And that's Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph at safety. They are still, in my mind, the best safety tandem in the league this year. They are impactful. They will give up the occasional big play because they're going to make more than that by trying to get them. And that's exactly the way that Aaron Glenn wants them to play. The outside cornerbacks, Carlton Davis and the rookie Terrion Arnold, have been really, really good. Really good in coverage. Arnold gets too many penalties. He's working on that. But his coverage his man coverage is outstanding already. It's kind of the rest of everything that he's got. He's got to find the ball. He's got to, find his lanes a little bit, but it enables the guys up front to do different things. And Aleem McNeil in the middle, they missed him last week after he went out against Green Bay, but he should be back. He's got it sounds like a jaw injury. He was technically put in the concussion protocol, but it sounds like he's not actually in that now. It's weird. He's had it, and he had this last year. His jaw popped out of thing, and it made his head and I actually talked to somebody who's had the same problem, and he's like, it's devastating when you get it.
But sounds like it.
When it gets popped back in, then you're good to go. So whether they can give him a different mouthpiece or something, I don't know, but
he's a football player.
Yeah, he's been fantastic this year. He is playing at it. He certainly belongs in the Pro Bowl if the Lions are eligible to go to the Pro Bowl, because they have bigger fish to fry this year than the ceremonial games in Orlando.
That is for sure. So Branch, you think also he's going to be okay?
He should be. Yeah, he's a warrior, man. He really took on. Especially after Aiden Hutchinson went out, he's like, somebody's got to be the instigator. Somebody's got to be the catalyst for making plays. And he's stepped into that role and has done fantastic at it. They moved him more into the safety role that he played at Alabama, and he's just thrived at that. He was one of the best slot corners in the league as a rookie. I don't think he's played more than 50 snaps in the slot this year. Just roaming around and doing everything. And Amik Robertson deserves a lot of credit for stepping into that slot. Amik's a guy who's going to give up some completions, but he's going to tackle them right away. He's very good at limiting the yards after the catch, and that's sort of what Aaron Glenn wants in the defense. So they are patched together nicely, but they do still have a solid core. And again, some of those guys are going to be coming back. And as long as you don't get any more injuries,
sure,
I think we're past the worst of it. Hopefully.
Well, you never know, but you would hope that there's so much good karma going on there that's exactly what will take place. Yes. So for this upcoming game, who do you think more than likely won't play that could play?
On defense, I think Branch will be back. McNeil should be back. Reeder is a question. I hope he's back. They've missed him. I know Miles Adams came in and actually played pretty well last week, and Jonah Williams gave everything that he had, but they're different when DJ Reeder is in there. Reeder and McNeil together are they're a very potent interior combo. Reeder, by the way, just came off the game before, got 2 sacks in a game for the first time since 2018. So he's still getting it done, and they missed him. Pascal, at this point, we never really know what's going on with him. He's one of those guys that just cannot stay healthy and stay on the field. And it's unfortunate because when he has played this year, he's played better. You're starting to see why they liked him in that draft a couple of years ago. But it's so inconsistent when he's available that it's frustrating.
All right. And then what about Decker, a tackle?
Oh, that's the big one. That's the offensive injury, and they have absolutely missed him. And where they really miss him is in run blocking. And you saw that against Green Bay. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs could not get going, and some of that was because the left side of the line has become a detriment in run blocking, and they need him back. Look, I love Dan Skipper. Who doesn't love Dan Skipper? He's just not the same guy as Taylor Decker.
No, of course not. No.
And we're hoping that Decker's back. It's a knee injury. He got rolled up on in the win over the Colts. Actually, on a play where Skipper whiffed on a block and the pile got rolled into Decker on the other side. So that would be big to get him back, and he's going to be day to day. You're going to hear Dan Campbell say that he's day to day until Thursday or Friday, and I would speculate he will be questionable for the game.
Okay,
but look, if Taylor Decker can play, he's going to play, even if he's limited. He's done that before. He's done it earlier this season when he had a pec and shoulder injury. So it would be great to get him back out there because Graham Glasgow is not playing good football at left guard right now, and they tend to they do a lot of movement with their gap and their duo. They've been running more zone, and they just can't do as much without Decker in the game. So it's really hurt their run game more than the pass game.
So it sounds like to me then that, especially in an injury or two, will definitely do this to you. It'll expose some potential issues and it's way early, but that next year solidifying some more, maybe even another starter or some good depth in the draft is something that the Lions will probably be looking at.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now they did draft Christian Mahogany in the 6th round this past year. He battled mono, missed the entire offseason. He actually got his first snaps, offensive snaps in the last game. He played 3 snaps when Kevin Zeitler went out. Zeitler's been phenomenal. He has been. Look, I've covered him in Cleveland. I've watched his career he's never played better. He's 34 years old and is doing spectacular. He is, for my money, the best right guard in football this year. And I don't say that lightly, but he's 34. He's on a 1-year deal.
Yep.
How much longer does he have? Is this just like, a late career hiccup, surface up year? You depend on that.
Yep.
They did draft Giovanni Manu in the 4th round last year with their 3rd round pick from 2025. He came from the Canadian college football. Yeah. We talked about it after the draft.
We know this. He wasn't going to see the field this year, or at least that wasn't the plan. So,
he's and it's still very much that way.
Yeah.
And Colby Sorsdal just has not developed the way that they hoped, the way that we hoped. So they certainly need more young ammunition in the pipeline there. It's not that Mahogany can't do better, and not that Manu won't develop.
Maybe they will,
but you need insurance plans for that, basically. So that's
4th and 6th rounders, maybe this year, 1st or 2nd rounders.
There you go.
So, and that makes a lot of sense because that's just the engine doesn't start if that offensive line isn't strong, which it is still, even though it's banged up, it's still considered one of the best offensive lines in the game. It's just that we got to get Decker on the field. So,
and to that point, if Ben Johnson's offense does not work unless he's got a very good offensive line in front of him, because he demands a lot from them. Jared Goff at the controls, he's a guy that doesn't handle pressure super well. So when if you're tailoring your offense around a pocket passer, which is what Ben Johnson thrives upon, you better be able to have a good pocket and a reliable pocket, and also guys that can get out and make things happen in the run game. The explosive run plays are what really makes this offense special.
Yep.
Because if you're playing safety or middle linebacker against this team, you've got to be aware of every player on this team on that offense is a threat to score on every play. And being able to decipher who that is, and when Jared Goff has time, he's going to find the right option. And they're very good at that. So for teams that want to hire Ben Johnson as your head coach, and
everybody does.
Everybody does. I'm still not sold that he wants to be a head coach, but he certainly has earned the right to listen and has earned the coveting of it. You better have a great offensive line, not good, great. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed in what you're getting. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, maybe that's even part of his patience, is finding the right place that he feels he does have.
That's one of the reasons why a lot of us suspect that he's not as hell-bent on leaving as a lot of people would like him to be.
Yeah. Now, again, I don't know if there's any, deep personal reasons, but money talks as well.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
The right owner.
Yeah.
Won't have salary cap issues to deal with a head coach. So
yeah, he'll be, he certainly is a very appealing candidate, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I would not say that he's a foregone conclusion to take a head coaching job, as he said, I think it was, who said it? Albert Breer, I think, came out with it over the weekend, that it's going to take the exact right situation for him to leave. And he's not going to do like what he did with Washington and Carolina, where he basically turned down their jobs because he didn't like their owners. He's not going to take those interviews anymore. If he's going, it's because he really wants the job, and we'll see. Also, I think some of it also depends if this Lions team wins a Super Bowl, and
true,
strike me down, Lord. Does he want to try to be part of that and build the dynasty more, or is he like going to capitalize strike while the iron's hot and cash in?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know him well enough to know that.
Well, hey, he's already been more patient than most assistant coaches.
Absolutely.
Time.
Yeah.
So whenever he does decide, if he does decide, well, it'll happen, as long as, whether it's here in Detroit or somewhere else, it'll happen. Do you think that let's say a team comes calling and says, all right, we'd like to have you on. Okay, no, I'm not ready. If someone was also interested in Agnew, because everybody kind of feels like if you want a GM and a coach, well, you've got the perfect team. You get Agnew to run his own franchise, and you got Johnson. But let's say if Johnson is just, you know what, I think I'm going to be okay here for the next couple of years. Do they go to Erngstred? Do they go to him and say, well, is that a kid we can bring along? And not necessarily, maybe it's a head coach or as a offensive coordinator. Say, look, do you want your own position as the main OC here? Because I'm not sure he's ready for a head coaching job.
No, I don't think so either. But Tanner Engstrand is definitely a guy who's rising up. And there's another guy in the coaching staff, JT Barrett, former Ohio State quarterback, is a very quick rising star on that. Yeah,
didn't he just play football a few years ago?
Yes, he did. not very long ago at all. He has worked a ton with Hendon Hooker as the backup quarterback. But he's also done a lot with, learning from Ben Johnson, being in on all those meetings, suggesting things here and there. So he's a guy they've got. You just look at their coaching staff. Most of the casual fan will, Antoine Renaud, oh yeah, he played. Hank Fraley, the offensive, he played. Sean Deion Hamilton at linebacker, he played. All these guys, like Mark Brunell's the quarterback coach. And I think that's something that the Lions have prided themselves on, no pun intended, in having guys who relate to players but could also teach them and show them from their personal experience, like, hey, this is why I see what I see. This is why I'm telling you to do what you're doing. Why there's the method behind my madness. And that's, you're seeing that with some other recent coaching hires too. I think D'Amico Ryans in Houston is doing a great job of doing that. You're seeing I like that, and I think that the modern player likes and respects that, and I think that's
absolutely.
something that as far as the entire team building process has gone, they have paid very good attention to detail on their assistant coaching hires too, and the ones that they got wrong, Dre Bly is a good example, got sent packing after a year, and that's one of the things that has been very impressive is that this team is not afraid to acknowledge when they make a mistake and get rid of it. And that's
the way to go.
It really is. If you let mistakes linger on your roster, that just it crushes the morale.
Yeah.
And I say that from somebody who's seen it with two different franchises that I've covered and seen it from afar from some other ones. You've got to acknowledge when you've made a mistake and end it. Like, okay, sunken cost be damned. You're gone.
And that's the way to really, it's a hard-nosed way of doing business, but it's really the only way.
You have to.
And that's what you see the successful businesses and of course the NFL team, it's a business, and that's how you have to do it. Because that's all I've really been preaching myself as often as I can this season, especially because I've learned to understand just how bad the Jets coaching staff is, just top to bottom.
Yeah.
Because they have so much talent on their team. There is no other explanation than they have a really bad coaching staff.
Their defense should not be where they're at.
No.
I can see their offense being poor, with Aaron Rodgers being who he is in the state he is, but that defense should be a lot better than it is, man.
Yes, there are a lot of questions, and that's why I think they could look what happened to the Chargers. What a prime example. Yeah. And when you bring in a coaching staff and a competent coaching staff, and again, it's like you said, though, it's not just the head coach. You have to be able to have really good position coaches. Look at the Cleveland Browns. They lose the best offensive line coach in the game, goes to follow his son in Tennessee, and the Cleveland Browns offensive line just falls apart, completely falls apart.
Guys like Dawan Jones, who was developing very nicely, stopped. It just stopped.
Yes.
It's frustrating.
Yes. So it is very, very important to have a deep coaching staff, and also we're going to look at the Chiefs. That's why the Chiefs. You got Andy Reid, Spagnuolo, Dave Taub. I mean, they got the three best position coaches in the game on one team. I mean, it's incredible. So no wonder why the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, whatever. I mean, it's just incredible. So the more these owners get that, and I think at some point, one of these owners is going to get it so much that they are going to hire one of these coaches and pay him a lot of money because they deserve it. If you're shelling out all this money to these quarterbacks, these Daniel Jones $40 million deals, certainly you can give a head coach that much money if he's worth it, because he's worth it, isn't he?
I would think so. That's not every franchise is run well. We know that.
No, it's not. That's the beauty of the NFL.
And for so long, the Detroit Lions were not one of them, and now they are, and it's very new for us and very refreshing, and we're very happy in Detroit.
What do you think it was when you – because, again, the owner is not a Badinsky. The owner is just, okay, let's see if, I can make the right hire, and then hopefully, that hire will make the right hire and so forth and so on. Was there a specific hire? Was there the first hire that she made that started the trickle-down effect?
Yeah, Chris Spielman, Lions legend, my personal football hero.
I remember that, yes.
She's like, help me, and he did. And he's very big on the process of servant leadership. And he brought in people that had that same sort of vision where we're going to do what we need to do to make the team better. It doesn't matter if it makes me better. It matters if it makes us better. And that's what Brad Holmes is all about. That's what Dan Campbell's all about. If you watch his post-game press conferences and interviews, you better believe that permeates throughout that organization. And they've done a very good job of identifying players that buy into that as well. But yeah, Chris Spielman being the most prominent hire, she got that one right. And he brought an instant credibility with fans, because I will tell you, as a longtime Lions fan, we were fed up with the crap, the chronic mismanagement, chasing your own tail when you're supposed to be chasing the tails above you. And that stopped right away when Chris Spielman got hired.
How long was she making the decisions?
Not long.
Okay.
She became the owner in taking over for her mother, who's still around and still she rolls a body on her golf cart. Mrs. Ford is, I think, 97 years old.
Okay, good for her.
She's, by the way, she looks fantastic for that older of a woman. But Sheila, I think she took over in 2018, and then she fired Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, the prior regime. It was Thanksgiving, after the Thanksgiving debacle of 2020. So not long.
Okay, so did she hire Patricia?
She did not. Her mother did.
So her first hire was Campbell.
Yeah. Yeah, and they hired Campbell before they hired Brad Holmes. The two had never met before, and they have just worked so simpatico that it's crazy. And again, give Spielman some credit there for having these guys in mind, and Sheila for having an open mind to, Dan Campbell he'd been a position coach, he'd been an interim head coach, but wasn't really a coordinator, didn't have that sort of a background. Brad Holmes had been a director of collegiate scouting. He had some pro scouting experience, but he'd never been a GM before, never been an AGM before. She took a chance and gave them 6-year contracts, which is a tacit acknowledgement that the team was in terrible position.
Going to take time. Yep.
And now this is year 4, and they've earned whatever extensions they get.
Oh, they'll be getting them. Yes. Who's considered then the closest thing to a president?
So they do have a president. His name is Rod Wood. He comes from the business side of things, and he has done more of. He handles facilities, marketing, off-field product type things.
So not necessarily the on-field.
Yeah,
okay.
That's
who
much more.
Who would be considered the on-field leader?
Holmes does that. Agnew does do a lot of that. John Dorsey, the former Browns and Chiefs general manager, is involved. He's having
advisor. 3 general managers.
Yeah, they do. And it's tough to point down what exactly John Dorsey does, but he's I see him out there, wearing his plain white sweatshirt with lions on it. It's his uniform. He's out there all the time. He's definitely doing things like that. And that their salary cap guy, Mike Disner, is a rising star. Okay. They got some front office guys that have been there for a long time too that are blending in very nicely. And you're going to see, just to go with some of the other guys, Scotty Montgomery is the assistant head coach on this team. He deserves head coaching interviews this year. I don't know if he'll get a head coaching job, but he certainly merits interviews. Former Colts offensive coordinator, running back. He coached, I believe it was at East Carolina or Wake Forest, one of those two.
Okay. I think it was East Carolina. Yeah.
Yes, it was. And so he's a guy that's going to get something. Aaron Glenn, I would be shocked if Aaron Glenn doesn't get a head coaching job this offseason.
I really believe that the only thing holding back, say, the Jets from hiring Glenn myself would be
he played there. Go get him.
would be if they see, as a Jet fan, you are so getting tired of them hiring defensive coaches.
Yeah,
because that's all they ever hire. Yeah. It goes back a long time.
It does.
Since they've hired an offensive guy, and you've had a lot of losing, and you've had a lot of bad situations where, well, wait a second, we're hiring defensive coaches, and then what's our biggest problem? Finding a franchise quarterback. So there's a little bit of so I think what's important is when you bring in a guy like Aaron Glenn and you want to hire him, all right, Aaron, what's your offensive philosophy? Who is your offensive coordinator? And I think if you answer that correctly, then it's a slam dunk. If it's like, well, it's this guy, and you go, who's that guy? I'm not so sure. We can't go down that road again. As much as we love you, Aaron. I mean, we need something. See, what I'd like to see happen is Zach Taylor gets fired, and then just bring in a guy like that to be your offensive coordinator, not a head coach.
That could happen.
It could happen. So anyway, but that just shows you that, you're right. Aaron Glenn, whether he becomes a Jet or whatever. So if he moves on, is there a quick answer to take him over?
The rampant clubhouse speculation is that it would be Kelvin Shepard, who's the linebackers coach. He's ready. I will tell you from watching him, he's ready.
Kelvin Shepherd.
Now, if Aaron Glenn tabs him to be the defensive coordinator, and that could very
that's
well
true
happen.
too. Yes.
Then you've got Jim O'Neill, former Northwestern coach, been around a long time. He's a defensive assistant on this team. Terrell Williams is the defensive line coach. They plucked him from the Titans this offseason. He's been fantastic. He's certainly got some leadership qualities to him. They have guys. Might not necessarily be the guys that you think of, but and I'll just say this right now, and people who've heard me on the radio and read what I've written know this already. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if they went outside the organization to replace people at high-level jobs.
Makes sense, yeah.
Position coaches, that's a different story. But coordinators, things like that, they're bubbling up.
They're ready.
That's what this culture is all about. If you think they're going to go out and grab Robert Saleh to be their defensive coordinator, you're not paying any attention at all to what the Detroit Lions are all about.
Let's talk our last few minutes with this Buffalo game, because it's one of the biggest games of the year, and the Bills are coming off a game in which you just had to feel that, especially on defense, they just weren't there. They just something's up here, which is they were not into the game. Their defense is not like that at all. Who knows? It could have been we just clinched the division championship. Yeah. Now we've got Detroit coming up. Sandwich game, California, that kind of thing. It happens, and that's exactly. There's no other explanation in my mind. Not that the Rams aren't a halfway decent team, but 44 points. That's not the Bills. So Detroit gets the Bills after that type of a game, which is never when you want to face a really good football team. And Detroit has not lost in a while themselves on an 11-game win streak, and it's like some point they are going to lose again. So, but I am surprised that the line started off at 1.5. I thought the line would be a little bit more like 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, and I think some of that is the injury ambiguity with guys like Decker and Reeder. I picked the Packers to beat the Lions last week because those two specifically were out of the game. Okay. I thought that the Lions, are a better team overall, but those are very key losses. And if they're back, I'm not going to pick against them against the Bills. But, again, Buffalo is a great football team. They absolutely have the ability to go into Ford Field and win this game. And they know that, but the Lions do too. And I don't want to say that the Lions overlooked Chicago much, but Chicago's sneakily matches up well with the Lions, and the Packers don't. Like the Packers defense, they don't cover the middle of the field at all, by design. Well, that's where Jared Goff's at his best. If you're going to give him the middle of the field, he's going to kill you, and he did. Buffalo, when their linebackers are healthy, and they seem to be doing that right now, they're a lot tougher to exploit than Green Bay is. So this is going to be a real challenge for Ben Johnson's offense. They need to get the running game back going. They need to hit the explosive plays. Jahmyr Gibbs needs to break one off for 25 yards. They need to hit Jamison Williams over the top. They need to get Sam Laporta going where he catches the ball out in space and has one guy to beat and beats him. And that hasn't been consistently happening with this offense, but it's been pretty good. But Buffalo, they're just the waves that they come at you with defense. That's a really good football team. They're sort of like the Lions in a way in that when they've had injuries, they've plugged guys in. Matt Milano was out forever. Find guys that work. Yeah. And they have a culture and a system there that works very well for them. And that Josh Allen guy's pretty good too.
Yeah, that was amazing. What he did last week was just something else. And what do you think about how the Lions have done this year, or even the last couple of years, with this defense with athletic quarterbacks? Has that been a problem?
Yes, it has. They've gotten better this year. And it's weird because they're playing more man, and normally to stop a running quarterback, you'd go a little bit more zone. They've actually gotten better at it because their defensive line, the interior defensive line, is not giving that gap up. The A and B gaps are not. You're not running there. If you're Josh Allen, you got to run outside a little bit and then go. Caleb Williams got pretty much bottled up. He didn't really seem all that inclined to run either, which was weird. But they've done a pretty good job of rush containment. Okay. Now, with all the new faces that they've got, that's tough. But I'll say Ezekiel Turner and Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's been playing some really good football lately. And they don't do a spy, but he's smart enough and savvy enough to understand that, okay, I'm facing Josh Allen. I'm at what, 4 Mississippi now after the snap. He's probably running by now. Let me go get him.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of sense with him and his development in that regard has helped a lot. It certainly helped a lot when they played against more like Baker Mayfield early in the year. Now, Baker Mayfield being the only quarterback who beat them, they did a pretty good job of keeping him running. And he's a guy that, he sneakily chews up yards. They did a great job against Geno Smith, another guy that you don't think of as a runner, but who can, exploit you. And they've done a really good job with those guys. So hopefully, Josh Allen, again, he's a different animal at his size, his speed, his fearlessness. He's going to be, I don't know if he's going to be the MVP, but he certainly belongs at the top of the list right now in my mind. And I say that as a Jared Goff supporter. But where are the Bills without Josh Allen? And
I know
he's a catalyst. And they do have a run game. Their offensive line is not bad at all. One of the better ones in the league, I think. It's a tough test. It's going to be a fantastic football game. I'm happy that the nation gets to see this, because this could very well be, and it's the cliche to say, it very well could be a Super Bowl preview. I don't think anybody would be surprised by that.
I don't understand the whole idea, though, about putting like 4 really big games on at the same time on Sunday. It just drives me nuts. Yeah. It's like they have like nothing at 1:00 except Miami and Houston, and okay, big deal. And they got all these great games at 4:00. It's like, I mean, it's we're one each. I mean, why would you do that? All you have to do is schedule it at 1, move it from 4 to 1. You do it all the time, 1 to 4. I mean, I don't understand that. Everybody's going to be watching the Bills in Detroit, but there's some other really good games at 4:00. You just mentioned Tampa Bay and the Chargers. You've got Pittsburgh and Philly. I mean, wow.
That's a fantastic game right there. That also could be a Super Bowl preview.
It could be.
Nobody would be surprised.
Yeah. So, because that running game, like you said, and especially if that interior of the Lions is not healthy, that could be a big issue, because Brady, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, has done such a great job in balancing the offense there and running the football more. And by the way, Brady's another head coaching candidate.
He's another guy, came from LSU, I believe it was with Joe Burrow, wasn't
he?
And,
yes, he was.
Now running in Buffalo, and he's crafted a very good offense. They have a very good culture. We talked about this in the draft, portion back when we talked earlier. You can look at guys, like that guy's a Lion, that guy's a Raven, you're like, that guy's a Buffalo Bill. Like you can see who fits and who doesn't fit. And I think that's a huge key to having a successful franchise. You can tell that guy's a San Francisco 49er. Especially if he's injury prone. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They fallen off.
I think with McDermott, though, is they have, like what you saw in the game, the Bills-Rams game, it's like he'll do things like that when he did the timeout deal. And it's like, why are you doing that? Why did you run a play and then need to go? Why? Nobody gets an onside kick. I mean, those are the things he does do that frustrate Bills fans, because Bills fans really think that he's on a short leash. But you are right; the organization is put together by the Pagulas very well.
It is,
and you get the feeling that even if McDermott wasn't getting the job done, that who knows? Maybe if things don't work out, they don't want to lose Brady. Maybe they elevate Brady and say goodbye to McDermott, but they'll still be fine because they've really built a nice organization there. So
and they got a lot of good key players on that team that are still under 30 years old and rising up together. And that's sort of the way Detroit is. That's one of the reasons why this game is going to be fantastic and why it's very difficult to predict. Because I think this is one of those games, if they played 100 times, 51-49.
Yeah, 50-50.
Yeah, 50. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's going to be, who makes fewer mistakes, who wins on special teams, where the Lions have been spectacular this year.
And the Bills just made a big mistake on special teams on Sunday.
And that's not their first time doing that either. That is a hidden edge in this game. The Lions punter, Jack Fox, is having a phenomenal season. Look, I said this the other day. We're in a golden age of NFL punting right now. If you look at like the averages and how they're pinning guys and how they're getting hang time and everything, like there's a tremendous plethora of punting talent in the NFL right now. Jack Fox is right near the top of that. And Dave Phipp, the special teams coordinator, has done a great job with coverage guys, with having schemes, with having designs. They're not going to lose the game because of that. And I think that's if you're looking for like one of those hidden edges, I would say that Josh Allen's ability to coax pass interference penalties out of guys like Terry and Arnold is one that could favor the Bills. But I think special teams, I wouldn't put it past the Lions to win the game on special teams with a blocked punt or a long return or stymieing, flipping the field, 4th and 15 from your own 20, and the Bills take over at their own 15, completely changing the Jack Fox can do that. The punt team can do that. And so I think if you're looking for the hidden edge, that's probably it. And I that's probably why I lean the Lions. But again, this is, where's the coin to flip? That's where we're at.
And they have home field advantage. So
they do. And it's a massive advantage. Fans have
with Buffalo, it is.
This year.
Yes, absolutely. You don't want to be playing in Buffalo. That's for sure at this time of year. So, but I think that the rest of the country would love to see a Detroit-Buffalo Super Bowl. I know we're all sick of the Kansas City Chiefs, except Kansas City Chief fans. So hopefully we'll see these two teams again. Like you said, it sounds like you're leaning towards Detroit, which I think also makes a lot of sense. Why not? Like I said, the way they're playing, the way the Chiefs are playing, just bet against them winning, not necessarily covering, but bet against them winning at your own peril.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the way they're playing. Before I let you go, again, there's criticism about Campbell. I don't know why people criticize this guy. Who cares if he makes
he's unconventional
down at his own 30 and doesn't get it? Did you see what happened after the game? After like the next couple of times they had the ball, boom, touchdown, boom. I mean, come on. It's just that's the way he coaches. The players love it and they respond. So why do you criticize whether he goes for it at his own 5-yard line?
And that's where you hit on it. They respond. They understand how to respond. They understand that their coach believes in them, that even if they don't make it on the offense, that the defense is going to pick them up. And then the offense will also be that much more pissed off and focused the next time they get the ball. And that happens a lot with this team. If they have a bad drive, they come back and they lay waste to you, no matter who you are. And that is a direct reflection on Dan Campbell's aggressive coaching style. They don't want their coach to be passive. That he plays to win. The way that he ended that game, we are winning or losing that game on our own. They're not responsible for who wins this game. We are. That speaks to this team.
And that's why they're right now, in my opinion, I think a lot of people agree they're the team to beat. As far as the Super Bowl is concerned, let's hope they can get healthy. Let's hope. Let's hope Detroit first step. Let's get to the Super Bowl. Let's get that check off the list.
It'd be nice to win the NFC North again. Minnesota and Green Bay are right there. Right. Minnesota's right there, man. They're playing some great football too.
Right.
So
and we'll see what happens. Easy. And it's not going to. And Green Bay's not going away in the next. We don't know about Minnesota because of the quarterback situation, but Green Bay's not going anywhere. So Detroit, Green Bay, going to have a lot of nice battles for it looks like quite a long time as we can foresee. But anyway, I appreciate it as always, Jeff. I look forward to hopefully getting the opportunity to talk to you. I know you'll be real busy around playoff time, but hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk to you at some point because there'll be some really big games coming up for the Detroit Lions. And I wish you the best of luck with all of that. So,
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So it was great having you, Jeff.